before we get started, how about you tell us a little bit about what you do?
On a day-by-day basis, when I'm not working with clients, quite a lot of my time is actually spent on creating content that's useful for people in the situation being made redundant, kind of career-focused content, which I tend to put out on LinkedIn. I also do a podcast. So a lot of what I do is creating free content that's useful for people wanting to change up their career in some way. My background, some people will be wondering, is Thor really this guy's name? I had kind of slightly zany hippie parents who, my English hippie parents moved to Shetland in the early 70s. And I was actually born in a, believe this or not, sounds like I'm making it up. I was born in a little wooden hut. We had no power, no plumbing. We had a well for water. So I had a kind of how can we put it? A very freedom-focused kind of early life.
Okay.
Not really much socializing, hardly any kids in the school. And what it led to, my wife calls it freedom issues. So I love freedom and kind of that ability to say what I like and do what I like. And that's one of the things I love about coaching, is kind of bringing that energy through and out of people. But at the same time, I ended up being a really shy kid. So a lot of my career has actually been developing myself.
Now, we talked about a tool that you've created called Captain Your Career. Unfortunately, it's not about captaining a boat, because that would be much more apt for where I'm sitting right now. But can you tell me a bit about where this came from?
I can indeed. Just want to point out that I'm seriously jealous of your houseboat, Jenny. But anyway, that's for another show probably. So there's a guy I know really well, and he was trying to transition between industries. Energy industry to aviation. And he'd sent in like 60, 70, I don't know, tons of applications to all the major airlines, and he was getting nowhere. And I said to him, well, you need to take action. And he's like, what do you mean I'm taking action? I'm doing all these applications. I said, well, what feedback have you got? None. I said, okay, put your suit on. I'm going to drive you up to the airport, and you're just going to walk in. So he's okay. So he gets a suit on. We head up to the airport. He went into the first airline, which I think was Eastern Airlines, and he just went in, had a chat, and it kind of gave him a wee confidence boost that they would even say hello. So he left his CV and came out. He went to the next airline, which was Gamma Aviation, and he went in, and it was a nice, warm summer's day, and I just fell asleep. So I guess 30, 40 minutes later, he comes back and he gets in the car, and he says, I got a job. Now, I completely recognize that isn't necessarily the way that someone will get a job, but the I guess, is it a metaphor or an analogy, whatever, but it's that idea that you don't have to sit there like a victim. You can, put your hand on the joystick and pull back and pull out of the career dive that you feel you're in. Now, the funny thing is, I got to know the operations manager of that airline later, and I asked her, I said, did any other, because this was a time of recession like now, and I said, did any other pilot needing a job ever walk in and just start chatting to people? She said, no, never seen it in my entire career. And so, like I said, I'm not saying anyone watching this can necessarily do that. I'm not suggesting there are simple answers. But having the balls to just create a little event like that, however you do it, maybe it's writing a letter that nobody else does. Maybe it's showing up. Maybe it's creating a website like Laura Ripley did. Yeah. But you've got to do something to pull yourself out of a dive, and you can. So that's the kind of the philosophy behind Captain Your Career. And there are some more specific ideas in there to help people do it.
Because you talk about frog within that. So you'll probably need to explain that a bit more, because I don't think people will know how to use a frog to help them.
Yeah, so I'm not suggesting harming any animals. I've been a vegetarian for a couple of years now, and I'm a big believer in not harming frogs. The basics of the frog idea is really, when you're in a position where you've been made redundant or you're just looking for a new role, you do need a certain level of organization. Like, I'm no admin freak, but you really do need a central place where you keep everything. And so, because a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I don't know what to do. And they've got like emails here, WhatsApps there, LinkedIn messages there. I say, right, you've got to get organized. Let's have at least an Excel spreadsheet with some tabs on. And the most basic tabs I would suggest would be target organizations that you would love to work for, roles you've applied for, and networking. But then people say, but networking, Thor, what the hell do I do with that? Like, I don't want to just reach out and beg for a job, and I haven't spoken to that guy for 10 years. Can I really reach out to him? So again, I would suggest they look at it in a systems way. And the frog thing is just friends, relatives, occupation, and geographical. So geographical meaning your ex-neighbours or people that have lived near you, or whatever geographical brings into your mind when you ask yourself the question. Occupation is previous co-workers, people you've loved working with, people you've been in teams with, people you've worked on projects with, and you create a particularly good result. Relatives, fairly self-explanatory, although I'm always surprised by how many people say, oh, I don't speak to my brother or whoever it is.
Yeah, relatives you got them with.
So it could be a chance for a reconciliation here. And friends is a funny one. Because again, I'm 46, you get to middle age and you think, oh, there are 21 guys on my stag do. How many of them do I keep in touch with? It'll feel a bit awkward, getting in touch with someone after years. Well, maybe. But the way I look at that is it's about the attitude that you approach it with. So what I suggest people do is generate all the names first. So friends, relatives, occupation, geographical. Get them on the spreadsheet, or just get them written on a bit of paper, because maybe you don't want to put them in the spreadsheet till they've at least replied. The first thing you do, you reach out and just ask how someone's doing. And just be honest and say, long time since we spoke, wondered how you've been getting on. At COVID time, you've got a reasonable excuse to reach out to people from the past, I would say. Yeah. And the attitude I would suggest people take is, I call it busker, not beggar. So busker comes from the Spanish root to seek. So it's like to seek opportunity. So a busker is creating something, an opportunity. They're creating something positive. They're creating some kind of entertainment, some kind of value. So just by reaching out and saying, how are you doing? And meaning it, that's a bit of value you're creating for someone. So you're not asking for anything. There's no begging. There's no, oh, I'm skint, I'm broke, I need a job. There's nothing. There's not even a sense of that. You're asking how someone's doing.
Yeah.
So that's how I get over the discomfort of it, I would say, Jenny.
What would you say are your most useful hint or tip that you can give to anyone right now to keep them, I suppose, to keep their spirits up much as anything?
Honestly, I think one of the best ones I ever had was from probably the most inspirational man I've ever met, and that's my father-in-law, who sadly passed away 4 or 5 years ago now. And this is the night before I got married to his daughter, and I said, Alan, have you got any advice for me marrying your daughter? Any advice for me? And he actually said, yeah, I do. And my wife denies it. She says, Dad would never have said that. He said, Thor, yeah. He said, act first, apologize later. Okay. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And because people kind of get this idea, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't create the website like Laura Ripley did. I couldn't write a letter just reaching out to the MD of that company and explaining my value. Well, says who? Act first, apologize later. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Because people, and I've fallen for this too, you sit there and you feel demotivated and you wonder what to do and you think, how can I get motivated to do this job search or whatever it is you're trying to do? It's that idea of just acting first, apologizing later. And yeah, your action will create the motivation. So don't sit around waiting, take the captaincy of your own career. That's really my main tip, which I guess is plain and obvious from the title.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I know that we're going to, I know that you've been very kind to say that you're quite happy to offer up your sort of fact, but I don't know what you call it. A fact sheet, you call it? What do you call it with the schedule for your?
Well, it's just a PDF resource. I wanted this to be user friendly. So I've had a lot of feedback from people. It's like an HR manager who's having to let go of 200 people actually, who I've had to help keep her own job, but that's a whole other story. I'll actually read what she wrote. She wrote, what a great resource you pulled together for people at a very stressful time. So the reason it's a great resource is because it's user friendly.
Yes.
So if people want to get it, they're very welcome. Got a new website, so bear with it if it's a bit clunky, but it's careergoldminer.com. careergoldminer.com. And also, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, just Thor Holt. I produce content, pretty much always daily. Happy to have a chat with people offline as well and just give them a second opinion without any kind of charge. That's just, I put aside maybe a third of my week is the free stuff. Oh, I'm also a volunteer mental health counsellor, probably a day and a half a month too. So I kind of have that side to what I do. So that's me. And feel free to reach out. LinkedIn is the best place to get me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I will look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.
Nice one.